The town of Elmsbridge had the kind of stillness that felt almost frozen in time: narrow cobblestone lanes, ivy-covered homes, and a clock tower that loomed like a relic from another world. It never told the correct time. The hands were rusted and stuck at 12 minutes past 3, and no one cared enough to fix it. For Aira, the town wasn't just a place, it was a cage. A beautifully silent, echoing cage she had lived in her whole life. Raised by her grandmother after losing her father at age 7 and her mother vanishing the year after, Aira had learned to find solace in books and the steady ticking of time, even when time itself had betrayed her. She often sat by her attic window, sketching the tower and wondering about its silence. Despite the broken hands, the bell still chimed, but not always on the hour. Sometimes it rang at 2:47 a.m. Sometimes at 1:11 p.m. The sound would echo like a whisper in her bones. No one else noticed, or they had stopped caring. But Aira heard it every single time. It was on the first frost of November that she wandered into a street she didn't recognize, despite having lived in Elmsbridge all her life. Tucked between a florist and a forgotten shoe repair shop was a small bookstore called the Hour Between. It looked like it hadn't been open in years, but the door was ajar. Dust shimmered in golden rays of light pouring through stained glass windows, and the air smelled of old paper and time-worn secrets. "Looking for something?" a voice said. She turned. A man stood behind the counter, brushing off an old hardback cover. He had dark hair, eyes too deep to measure, and a scarf that looked like it had known many winters. "I'm just browsing," she said. He smiled. People who say that usually find what they weren't looking for. His name was Kael. Over the next 2 weeks, she returned to the Hour Between again and again. They spoke of poetry, metaphysics, philosophy, and time. He never pressed her for details, but somehow he always seemed to know things she never told him. That her favorite tea was cinnamon. That she listened to rain sounds while sketching. That she still had nightmares about the day her mother vanished. "Time's strange in Elmsbridge," he told her one afternoon as they sipped tea in the reading nook. "You've noticed it too? It's not broken. It's paused. There's a difference." She frowned. "Paused?" He nodded. "There are places where time folds. Places that trap memories. Elmsbridge is one of them. You are one of them." The words stayed with her like a haunting melody. And then things began to shift. She started dreaming in languages she didn't understand. Sketches appeared in her notebook that she didn't remember drawing: spirals, gears, celestial maps. Kael began acting distant, almost afraid. One evening, she caught him staring at the clock tower from across the street, his lips moving like he was reciting something. She crossed to him. "Kael, what's going on?" "I wasn't supposed to get this close again," he murmured. "But every time, I do. Every time, I find you." She stared. "What do you mean, again?" He looked at her with eyes full of sorrow. "We've lived this before. This town. This time. Us. It's a loop. Elmsbridge resets every 13 years. And every time, you forget. But I don't." She laughed nervously. "That's insane. Do you remember your 10th birthday?" Aira's heart paused. "No. I've tried to. It's just gone. Because that's when it resets. The loop begins with you. You're the keystone. I don't understand. I've tried 17 times to help you break free. Each time, something goes wrong. You die. I get erased. Or we never find each other. This time is different. You're waking up." Her breath caught. She wanted to deny it. But deep inside, she remembered things, blurred memories, flickers of Kael's voice, déjà vu that didn't make sense. "How do we stop it?" "Midnight. Tomorrow. The clock will chime, And the loop will seal again unless you remember everything and break it from the inside. Why me? Because you were never just part of the loop. You were its heart. Your mother, she broke it once. And they punished her. They took her. Aira's knees weakened. She's alive? She was. I don't know anymore. But her last message was meant for you. I have it. He handed her a folded page. Her mother's handwriting. To my Aira, when the clock chimes at midnight, don't be afraid. Step into the bell tower. Take the leap. You'll find the truth waiting beneath the floorboards. That night, Aira didn't sleep. The next evening, she met Kael at the tower. It was snowing lightly, the world blanketed in silver silence. The door to the clock tower groaned as they opened it. They climbed. The air grew colder with every step. At the top, Kael found a hidden panel in the floor, just beneath the giant bell. Inside, a staircase spiraled down into darkness. You ready? He asked. No, she said, gripping his hand. But I trust you. They descended. At the bottom, a massive machine whirred, gears and light, mirrors reflecting thousands of versions of Elmsbridge. In the center, a chair. Wires. And a glowing orb that pulsed like a heart. You sit there, Kael said softly. You remember. And you decide. Decide? To reset again. Or to break it and set us free. And you? If the loop ends, I go wherever time puts me. I've done my part. She hesitated. Will I ever see you again? He smiled gently. I always find you. Aira sat in the chair. The machine whirred louder. Memories surged, her childhood, her father's death, her mother's scream, and Kael's voice across centuries. She saw everything. All 17 loops. All versions of herself. Then, silence. The orb shattered. Time breathed. The gears stopped. When she opened her eyes, she was in a hospital bed. A calendar on the wall read November 14th. The year had changed. No mist. No loop. Just time, real, flowing time. Her grandmother wept when she saw her. They found you unconscious in the tower. You've been asleep for 2 days. Where's Kael? She asked. Who? She searched every bookstore. Every corner. But he was gone. Until a year later, while walking through a small village on a vacation to clear her mind, she stepped into a cafe. A man sat by the window, reading a book called The Hour Between. He looked up. Aira, he said softly. Took you long enough. She smiled, her eyes filling. I always find you, he said again. And time, real, unbroken time, began to move forward, at last. If this story touched your heart, please give it a thumbs up, share your thoughts in the comments below, and don't forget to subscribe for more emotional stories like this. What would you do if you were Emma or Daniel? Let me know. Your story matters here.